Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for life, won't live in the past. All I wanna do now is making it last.
How can one form and maintain a relationship with a parent who lives overseas? Hello, it's time for another conversation. This is Making It Last podcast. I'm your host, Noreen Daly, and with me is Catique Williams, a university student. Welcome.
Thank you, ma'am.
Tell us a little bit before we get into the topic for today. Tell us a little bit about your parent who now lives overseas. How long?
All right. So my father has been overseas for years, most of my life. He left when I was in about grade 1. He came back when I was in grade 4, and he left again when I was in grade 7. Now, even when he was here, we didn't spend a lot of time together because he was mostly in Kingston and I was living in Clarendon. Now, the only times that I would probably get to see him were major holidays like December and during the summer. So with that said, I've never really I can't remember spending my birthday with my father. Neither can I remember spending his birthday with him. And that might seem a little strange, but he would always call. So it was as if he was there. And so there are fragments of memories that I have of me being around him, but anything before probably grade 4 was pretty vague. In every relationship, regardless of the type of relationship, communication is very important. And so I remember back then, phone was not so dominant in Jamaica. And so we had to travel like 2 miles just to make calls to my father. So we had to go to our grandaunt just to make calls to him.
Okay.
And from then up to about grade 4, before he came back, that time, mommy had phone and almost everybody had phones. And so with that, it was easier for us to talk to him. And so these are conversations about how we're doing at school. So I would try to stay current with everything that we're doing and try to be a part of everything that we're doing.
Okay. So I noticed you said back then, but letter writing was never an option in terms of you just forming this connection with him. No, it was just always on the phone.
Yes, it was always on the phone because I really can't remember writing a letter to my father. So, phone was there, but it wasn't really there. So back then, they were kind of leaving out of styles per se, but it was just phone calls.
Okay. All right. So now you have and I can say a very close relationship with your father based on what I have observed over a period. So you say you make regular phone calls. So just tell us then, how then are you then maintaining this close connection even across these thousands of miles?
All right. So even if I would go probably a day or two without speaking to my mom, probably 2 days, and one would think that even though my mother was the one who raised me, that we would have a closer relationship. But truth be told, I have a closer relationship with my dad than I do with my mom.
Okay.
And this is because, like school, when it comes down to schoolwork, Dad would help me with schoolwork, even over the phone.
Okay.
And he would stay in touch to make sure that I'm eating, to make sure that I'm getting enough rest and stuff like that. These are stuff that, mommy wouldn't necessarily do. And so I think it's because of this why we've grown so close.
Okay. So for somebody who's listening and saying, yeah, but, I might not necessarily be able to manage phone calls because sometimes that can be expensive because not everybody has easy access to internet. What then would you suggest to somebody who's listening? Say, yeah, it's easy for you to say because you have access to, internet privileges. How then can they try to form and maintain this close relationship?
There's this saying that you make time for the persons who are important to you. And so if you want to build that connection and to have that relationship with your parent, time is it's not about time. You'll make the time for the persons who you care about. And so it's not just internet. You can buy a phone call, $100 phone card on your phone. And the conversation doesn't have to be long because my father and I, we really don't talk long on the phone. Sometimes we end up having the same conversations on a daily basis. Are you okay? Have you eaten? Are you doing your schoolwork? Stuff like that. And it's not just the length of the conversation, but how often we talk. And so we'll talk probably, if not 7 days a week, well, like 6 days a week, probably 3-4 times a day. Yes.
Okay. You said several things, that your father is one who will help with schoolwork on the phone. Basically, I get the impression that even if the conversation is short, it is one of quality because you're checking in to see what is happening with each other. Anything else you're willing to share in terms of how you formed and maintain a relationship with your parent who lives overseas?
All right, so let me share this. I remember, like, when we were talking on the phone, right? At one point, especially when I just started university, I was afraid to talk to him over the phone because we have this thing where after every word or probably after every sentence, I would say daddy. So it'd be a yes, daddy or no, daddy.
Okay.
And I remember when I just started university, he was calling and I was afraid to answer the phone. And in my head, I'm thinking like, who is paying my tuition? And then I answered the phone and like in front of everybody, I'm saying, yes, daddy, no, daddy, yes, daddy. And then persons would be like, so why do you have to say daddy after every sentence? Even at 24 years old, I'm still saying daddy. But it boils down to the respect that I have for my father. Like he's someone that I look up to.
Okay.
So it really doesn't matter what is going on around, and he will always be the one to tell me that I can do more. There was this one point in high school where I came second in my class and he was very upset. I'm like, but I came second. Isn't this something that you should be excited for? But he's always saying that I expect better from you. You can do better. And time after time, even at university, I'm seeing where it is possible for me to do better and to do more because I know that I have him believing in me.
Okay. From his perspective, if and given the fact that you talk on a regular basis, so I think to some extent you can talk on his behalf, what do you think he is doing from his end to ensure that he maintains that connection with you, since I don't have him physically here to ask that? So just to get his side of it, what do you think he would say in response to that?
I think, again, he would say that it is speaking to your child is very important.
Okay.
So even though you're miles and miles away, you may be thinking that, all right, my child won't listen to me because I'm not around. But even though you're not around physically, it is as if he's here.
Okay.
Because he's a part of everything that I do, most of the decisions that I make. And even sometimes when I don't call him, like probably for 2 days, because sometimes I might get busy with doing stuff, and he might call and be like, oh, so you don't need your father anymore. And I'm like, daddy, I'm just a little bit busy. But that's not acceptable to him. So it goes both ways. He will call and I have to call. That's a must.
So with all of this, Catique, how do you deal with all of this? Because I'm sure there's some good moments and there's some bad moments with all this. So how have you dealt with this emotionally?
Well, going back to when I was much younger, it really didn't matter to me because, of course, having a parents overseas was like the in thing. You're getting the latest stuff, the latest shoes, you're getting the latest clothes, brand stuff. It really didn't matter at the time. But after about high school, I remember it taking a little emotional toll on me because, of course, my mother is not the lovey-dovey type or the feely type of person. And then it was then that I realized that I needed somebody to lean on. And then even though I was still getting the phone calls, but there are times when you just need a shoulder to lean on or a shoulder to cry on maybe. And even in university, when I started university, I remember my first semester, my exam results came out and he wasn't very pleased. As I said before, he was always expecting me to do beyond what I thought I could do.
Okay.
And so I called him, I said, Daddy, I get X amount of A's and X amount of B's. And he was very upset about it. Now, this is a time when I really needed my father, not through a phone call or anything like that. And then I remember I cried. And then after that, he called back. And then he was pretty calm about it. And then we just spoke about it. And that was just about it. So it has its ups and downs, but You just have to know how to work it.
Okay. So for somebody who's listening, what would be your advice to them in terms of how to deal with all of these up and down emotions?
I would say that even though it's not going the way you would like, it won't necessarily go the way you want it to. But at the end of the day, just have faith.
Okay.
And believe that, just look at the brighter side of it. Because I'm really not the only one, right? There are many children. There are many of us. But he makes time for each and every one of us. And with that, I understand. And I try not to be selfish.
Okay. You've said a lot, but if for all that you said, somebody's saying, yeah, it's all well and good. So what is the one thing you'd want to leave with our listeners in terms of well, eventually you'll be a mother yourself. So, but we won't get into that. That's for another conversation. But what's the one thing you'd want to just resonate with our listeners in terms of all that you have said?
All right. So one thing that I would say to our listeners is that it's not about the tangible stuff that you can actually give to your children. It's not about the amount of money you can give them or the toys. Or even if you're not there, then try to be there. Even through phone conversations, because it's not all about the presence, but it's the most important thing is the presence. So try to be a part of your children's life. And even for the children, you may think that, all right, he's not a part of my life or she's not a part of my life because they're not around. But you too can reach out. It's not a one-man thing or a one-woman thing. Reach out to your parents. They're all you got, even when everybody else turned their backs on you. You know that your parents are always going to be there. Okay. That's one thing we know for sure.
All right. You said a lot, and I think if somebody's listening and if they got nothing, the presence, as in PRESENCE, is more important than the PRESENTS. Thank you so much, Catique. It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, you heard it. How can one form and maintain a relationship with a parent who's living overseas? If you don't think you got the answer, and if you think that phone calls is not the way, at the end of the day, you just have to try to maintain that connection. This was Noreen Daly. This was Making It Last podcast. Until next time.
Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for life won't live in the past. All I wanna do now is making it last.